everyone. Thank you again for attending tonight. This year, we're trying something different with our Stories of Transition sessions. We're exploring themes that are central to the transition movement. Our theme tonight is community land use from a grassroots perspective. And we're looking at two case studies of this very important theme. Firstly, the various projects run by Transition Town Wellington in Somerset, England. And secondly, Pocket City Farms in Sydney, Australia. Allow me to introduce our first speakers, Anita Roy and Helen Gillingham.
Thanks very, very much for the opportunity to enthuse at you, basically, this is the furthest that we have enthused in terms of miles, although it does feel like you're very close here, sitting in my kitchen and across the road from Helen. So what we'd like to do today in 12 minutes
or 10
or possibly 15 if we get really carried away, is to tell you a bit about the story of Transition Town Wellington, where we've come from, and particularly in the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years, how what we've seen in terms of our community gardening projects have really taken off in a very exciting way. And we hope that that will inspire you as much as it has really inspired us and others in our community. So what we're doing today is that we're doing we're talking about snowballs. We're going to talk about how something can snowball, but it's a green snowball. So it's already slightly mixed metaphors. But anyway, we're just going to go for it. I'm going to start screen sharing, and so we can show you some of the images and some of the slides and give you a sense of the landscape that we're talking about and where we are and what's been going on. So here we go. So Transition Town Wellington. Wellington is a little town in the southwest of England, where that big blue arrow is, more or less. So we have very different landscape, environment, climate, species, people, accents from you guys. But here is a little map, what we did a few years ago of so we can show you a kind of bird's eye view of the town and where some of our community gardening spots are. And Helen is going to do a whistle-stop tour around the history of how this little town has managed its green spaces through community engagement and volunteers and tea and cake.
Okay. Lovely. So yeah, this is one of the first maps of Wellington that I drew, actually, partly off Google Earth, and it shows some of the places where we've started gardening. So our remit in the beginning was, wouldn't it be lovely if there was food for people to pick for free round the corner from their own house? So we wanted to plant as many. We mainly concentrated on perennial trees, bushes and herbs, simply because they're lower maintenance and we didn't have a lot of volunteers, we didn't have a lot of time. So you plant a fruit tree, you really just have to prune it once a year and maybe make sure the grass is cut around it or something, or it's mulch. So, that was a fairly easy route in a way of just what we could manage. But what wasn't easy in the beginning was finding the land to put it on. So I don't know if you can see my cursor here. You've got Trinity Orchard. Was ones that we actually started looking at. There was already, this one here was Swains Lane Nature Reserve, was started planting in 2009, and it was a housing estate where they'd left an old orchard and they added a few more trees. Now our group started in 2008 and one of the members was doing that. It was a slightly separate project. But the first proper Transition Town project was Trinity Orchard, which is around here. And that took 2 years to get the permission for, because it was an old church, and one of our ladies was really working hard to get it started. And we eventually planted, I think it was about 20 apple trees in 2013. And then the food group separated from the core group to concentrate on these projects. And we found some around the back of Asda, this little patch we thought we might be able to grow on. And we went to the council and they said, well, that's going to be difficult there. But how about here, here, and here? And we just thought, oh my God, why didn't we go to the council in the first place? We'd spent 2 or 3 years faffing about trying to find land that didn't really belong to anyone, or wasn't used, which is kind of never happens. So as soon as we started speaking to the town council and the district council, it started properly. So in 2015, we planted up some herbs. Actually, we've got another slide, haven't we?
We have.
Yes. So this is Trinity Orchard, the first one, the 2013 one. And actually, because it isn't really owned by anyone, it used to be a church. Somewhere between 2013 and today, the church basically disowned it. It's been quite hard figuring out who has responsibility for it in the major things of the wall falling down and things like that. And we're hoping that the council will take it over. But that is one problem when you're taking over somewhere that doesn't really belong to anyone. So we've been mainly clearing brambles from suffocating the trees recently. So this is one of the first ones that we had in 2015. Started talking to council. So this patch is basically a patch of rubble with 2 layers of weed suppressant membrane and a load of wood chip and a bit of brambles. And then we planted herbs there. From talking to the neighbours wanted something good for pollinators outside their house that wasn't too high, so they still see out their kitchen windows, which you can see their kitchen windows are over here. And then we got a hang of this. So people started actually asking us to do stuff, and we were asked by the neighbours either side of this patch, could we do something with it? It was basically docks, nettles, and brambles, which are all your kind of most prevalent weeds in the UK. And then some years later, after speaking to the school that's around the corner and trying to get some engagement from the pupils there, we planted 8 fruit trees. The little bit harder to get this started because it was highways rather than the council owned. We got hoops to jump through in the UK. But then we started getting asked, can you do something with Longacre? So it wasn't called Longacre at the time. It was a useless bit of land at the back of people's houses that wasn't able to be built on because it was too close to the railway line. You had a sustainable drainage dip built to catch floodwater from the housing estate nearby. So it wasn't going to be built on. The council had given up doing anything with it about 3 years ago. And what we're finding basically is the council has no money. I think it's probably worldwide that issue, that they'd love to have nice things done with public land and they'd love communities to be engaged and make something wonderful, but they don't really want to pay for it and they haven't got any staff to do it. So this was, can you do something with this? And it was, I would say, probably 5 years off being inaccessible because it would have just been one big bramble patch. It was fly tipping and just, not good. And now it's a lovely resource for the people that live alongside it. Their gardens back out onto it and they've started making gates through their hedges to come out and enjoy it. And the kids play there in the, all year round. And just, have nice, wholesome outdoor play. There's 50 trees and 50 bushes, all producing fruit that started properly producing now. And because that went so well, we did quite a lot of our community engagement has been getting better and better as we've got more experience. Just to mention as well, again, there are very few of us actually leading this thing. It's basically I was in charge of trees and Kate was in charge of bushes at the beginning. So, you know, just to say size-wise, scale-wise, volunteer-wise, you know, you can start with quite a low number of people, that as long as you're just enthusiastic. And we started getting noticed because we were advertising what we were doing. We were doing surveys on SurveyMonkey and Facebook posts asking people what they thought and things like that. So we started getting noticed, putting articles in the paper. And the Wellington Mills, who was it that stopped this being built on? Anita was a chair of it at the time. Weren't you?
It was, yeah.
Yes. And this land came up for development, and it was a really popular dog walking spot. And the public basically kicked off and said, no, we're not having that. And the county district council basically bought it in 2019. There we go.
Yeah.
And then they bought it and went,
What do we do?
Because we've got no money and no employees to do it. And so they basically said, oh, do you want to sort something out there? This is an 8-acre field. So post close is the size of an allotment. Long acres, 1 acre. This is 8.5 acres. So we're getting bigger every time. We had public consultation in 21, summer of, which we had funding from the transition in Britain from. We had the first trees were planted in December 21, concentrating on the forest garden area, which is about 1.5 acres of the 8.5 acre 2 fields. And then through 2022, we basically mulched and we are keeping the trees alive, massive drought, well, for our country anyway. You know, watering and trying to suppress the grass. And then, I did too. We both pressed it at the same time. Then last year, yes.
That's from last year.
So we last year we started doing the paths and planting. We got another grant for herbs. We started working with Botanica, which is a herbal medicine school nearby. They basically gave us a wish list. And Helen, the leader of that school, she does herb walks on the field and tries to get people involved. So this was literally June last year. We'd almost finished planting the tiny little plants for £3 each. And then this is October. And actually all that prep work that was so was really worthwhile. And we're currently working on signage. We think it's really valuable to actually have signs that don't need a computer with a decent amount of information on, but also the QR code to link you to more information online. We've updated our foraging books. Where has that gone? Foraging booklet and map, so that you've got a guide to where everything is growing, when it's ripe, depending on species of things you're picking. So we've got, so there's how you pick them, what you do with them, and so on. And I'm now going to pass on to Anita.
So there you've got a green snowball in action, from the grassroots to the grass suppressors. So again, I know this presentation is very mappy, but just to give you a sense, Fox's Field up there, 8.5 acres, bought in 2019. The council then brought another small field called Linden Meadow 22,
where we've been planting native trees.
This has snowballed massively in 22, when all of this land, 65.5 acres, was which had been in private ownership. It was all owned by one local farmer. He decided that he wanted to sell off this land, which wasn't agriculturally valuable to him, but as a legacy to the town. So with some development money that the district council had at that point, but crucially with the assurance that they had a really engaged, experienced and well-motivated team of local people who wanted this to happen because they had seen what we had been doing in these other patches of land, they were able to say, okay, we would like to buy this land for the town to maintain as a green corridor, to uplift the biodiversity, to create a community supported agriculture farm on part of it, possibly to have some extra sports fields, but crucially also to maintain the waterways, to have good habitat for the wildlife, to increase the hedgerow cover, and to really look after this land, which is looking after us. So that has been an absolute game changer for us, because it means we're beginning to start to be able to make landscape scale difference to our environment. And the most exciting thing that we want to end with, if that wasn't exciting enough, is that this, we now learn, I mean, like, this is happening like now, so it's all very current. There's another farmer who has again been historically doing very industrial agriculture, monoculture. If you can see down at the bottom here, Exeter Road, so just on the other side of Exeter Road, we have got an additional possibly 40 acres of land, which we're currently helping the farmer who owns it not change ownership, but to change the management structure so that it can be designated as a local nature reserve, which means that we've got upwards of 110 acres of land in kind of green management that we have
2 years ago.
I mean, it's a bit insane, very exciting, very wonderful. And we have had so many people with us on this journey, not just Transition Town volunteers themselves, and our core group has grown. We get many more people who know about the work that we've been doing, who either come along to volunteer at our very regular volunteering sessions, or they start their own projects. So we've actually got 2 other forest gardens which have started up that we've been helping with the design and the fundraising for and stuff like that in other parts of the country. And basically we could just go on and on and on about this, and we do. So we're going to stop there so that you have time to ask questions and stuff like that later. And back to you. There we go.
Thank you so much, Anita and Helen. That was incredible. Yeah, very inspiring.